No, I'm just setting up. If you could just talk a little bit about what you're going to do tonight. You're doing the Princess Dracula?
Are we interviewing now?
Sure.
Princess Dracula is just sort of a professional stage name. Actually, what I'm doing is depicting the real-life Prince Vlad Dracula, Vlad Zipich. I'm showing him toward the end of his life, when he's assassinated after bloody rule in the year 1476. And then we skip ahead to 1897, which is the year that Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula, came out. And I make the conversion via Stoker's novel from prince to vampire. He was not a vampire in real life.
What do you think were the elements that contributed to Stoker's bastardization of the Dracula legend?
He lived in a time when Gothic literature, well, escapist literature was a big fad. And he was also a buff of the supernatural himself. But what happened was, when he decided to write a vampire story, he chose the country of Romania, Transylvania, Hungary, the general area, where belief and superstitions about vampires are the strongest. But he wanted to base his vampire upon somebody who had actually lived, that had a strange reputation. And he chose Vlad Zipich, transforming him into a vampire, which is something he hadn't been in real life.
Okay. What are your feelings about other novelists who use the vampire legend but do not associate it with the legend of Vlad Zipich? For example, Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu's Camilla, stuff along those lines.
I really don't go for vampires or vampire novels in general. A book such as Carmilla was just a gradual development of vampire literature. They didn't know all there was to know about Vlad Zipich at the time. Like I said, Vlad the Impaler was never associated with vampires until Bram Stoker decided to transform him into one. And I also want to say something about the dramatizations, impersonations. After Stoker's novel was published, the earliest dramatizations, the plays, especially the one on Broadway, and particularly most of the well-known movies, left out the most important part of Stoker's story. Stoker had included in his novel some research he had done about the real Dracula, like footnotes and bibliography of a term paper. But the earliest dramatizations left that part out, so that all audiences had to go on was the vampire legend. They took it as gospel that Dracula was strictly fictional, and as a result there was a lot of exploitation, degradation of the horror, and ultimate demand for a change in pace. And it was just at that time that Professors Roder Florescu and Raymond McNally at Boston College brought the real story back to life. And unfortunately, it was inexcusably shortchanged, distorted, so that the Dracula fad of the 70s repeated many mistakes of the past in wasting too much energy on the vampire.
Have you read the recent book, Dracula Was a Woman? I'm not familiar with the theory behind that.
No, I have not. For one thing, that really does not say anything about Dracula himself. That's really based on the legend of Hungarian Countess Elizabeth Báthory, who lived in the early 17th century. She chose to drain young servant girls of their blood in order to bathe in it. It was her own kind of anti-aging agent, somewhat like oil of Olay is for women nowadays.
Okay, well, if you have any further comments about your dancing or the Dracula legend, feel free to interpose them here. I don't have any more specific questions.
Originally, I made up a ballet based on Stoker's novel, a group ballet, and unfortunately I was never able to get it done. So then all I could do was make up solo dances depicting Dracula as the prince, as well as the vampire. And all the dances, especially the solo ones, use costumes authenticated from his time. Hence, you're wondering, maybe this costume that you see me wearing now, you're wondering, that's a Dracula costume? It's true, because this particular outfit is modeled on a famous portrait of him in Castle Ambras in Innsbruck, Austria. Also, something important to realize is that Well, it's been aptly termed one of the most serious Dracula impersonations in the world. And also because it does not squander energy or time on the vampire. It really depicts Vlad authentically the way he was. And particularly with the number I'm going to do tonight, it shows that, that Dracula was not a vampire in real life, how the monumental change came around strictly through Stoker's novel.
Okay, thank you very much.